Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ohio VolleyTalk. This week's episode, we're going to be going over the amount of playoff games that have already happened and kind of looking forward to the next few big ones. Nick, what's the first game that recently jumped out at you?
Yeah, so like that's actually two games that really jumped up to me. More two teams rather. Teams coming out of Dayton, Beaver Creek and Centerville, making it further than I think either of us expected. I'll start with Centerville. Came in as the sixth seed, playing against Galloway Westland as the 16 seed, beat them pretty handily, and then the next round, they played Hilliard Davidson, who's been kind of all over our rankings this year. They've played very well at some points this season, and then some down weeks, some points in the season. But Centerville was able to take care of them in five, and then now Centerville is set to play Dublin Jerome tonight, which that'll be a very tough game for them, but I think could be very fun with all the momentum they have.
Yeah, the Centerville one, like you said, Davidson has been all over the place. They played earlier in the season too, and Centerville lost that one 3-1, so not particularly close, but they obviously had a solid end to the season. Didn't have a tough schedule at the end of the season, but they're coming through and they're showing up when it matters. But like you said, a tough test tonight against Jerome. I'm not sure if they're going to come up on the winning end of that one because Jerome has been such a tough opponent, especially recently. But Jerome did drop a set to Worthington Kilbourne, so showing that they're not untouchable. And Centerville, I think, could be a team to really upset them, especially before they run into, the regional final juggernaut of likely Thomas Worthington, but Thomas Worthington's opponent, also maybe not who a few people expected. Beaver Creek beating Hilliard Darby in five. We did say at last week's episode that that was entirely possible, especially with Beaver Creek's good end to the season, but I thought it was still a little bit of a reach. They were able to actually come in and do it.
Yeah, I mean, Beaver Creek coming in as the five seed took care of Dublin Kaufman pretty handily. And then Hilliard Darby, like again, they've been pretty high up in our rankings basically every week this season. And another five-set game, Beaver Creek was able to pull off the upset over the three seed. And like you said, Beaver Creek playing Thomas Worthington, very, very tough matchup. I think Worthington is going to win that one pretty handily, but Beaver Creek does have a lot of momentum going into this game, so maybe they can maybe like take a set off them and maybe make them earn this game. But I think Worthington is gonna come out with this one.
Yeah, I think that both of these teams, did great to get as far as they did, but Worthington Jerome just does seem like they're probably going to be in that regional final. But in Region 2, we've already got one of our regional finalists decided, Hudson making it in over St. Ed's, but St. Ed's to get there, they upset Jackson in a not particularly close game. Each set was close, but it was still 3-1. And then that Hudson Ed's game was a five set as always, between these two teams, it seems like they're just very equally matched, and they always seem to have a great match between each other.
Yeah, St. Ed's got off to a very hot start. They're coming in as they kind of cooled off a little bit during the season, but still came in as the four seed. Were able to take care of Mentor, the 15 seed. Then, like we just said, Ed's upset Jackson, and which was big win for them, carrying a lot of momentum. But then they ultimately fall to Hudson, who was the two seed. But five set thriller, very very good game. I think Ed's had a very great season. I think they exceeded many people's expectations, and yeah, I think great win for Hudson. And now they'll play the winner of St. Ignatius and Stowe Monroe Falls, which, in my opinion, will probably be St. Ignatius because I think they'll just be overwhelming for Stowe Monroe Falls, even though they've made it further than we expected.
Yeah, like you said, Stoneman Row Falls doing a good job to get this far, upset over Medina in a five set before, but it's gonna kind of be hard to stop St. Ignatius for anyone in the state to stop St. Ignatius. They've got a team full of experience, like we've said, but Hudson not slouches themselves, obviously. They've been in close games. They've got a little bit, it'll be an extra day of rest, but sometimes little things matter like that. And, in that game against Eds, Owen Stearns, the senior from Hudson, had 24 kills across those five sets. So still playing very, very good volleyball over at Hudson. It's just that San Ignatius might be playing the best volleyball in the state consistently when it gets to playoff time. But if we move down to D2, there's been a lot of action over there. Most of the regional finalists are already decided, pending two. One of those games that's happening tonight actually is between a 2 and a 9 seed. Chardon and Notre Dame Catholic playing tonight at 6. And I think that that is just, we talked about this region maybe not being the most exciting coming into it, but Notre Dame Cathedral is coming in as the 9 seed and they're in the regional semis.
Yeah, none of us expected that, especially as a 9 seed. Um, I mean, every game they've played this tournament has been an upset, starting with Cleveland East Technical as the 8 seed, beating them in the first round, and then they beat Burton Berkshire as the 3 seed. I think that was a big upset, and they beat them in four, so they beat them pretty handily. And then now they have a tough test against Chardon. I think just the momentum they have. I think they've got a lot of momentum right now, but Chardon might be a little too overwhelming for them. But I think this game could really go either way.
Yeah, well, Chardon they played twice in the season, lost both times, but that last one was 5 sets, so it could entirely be possible. I think just Cathedral having 4 wins before heading into the playoffs is incredibly impressive that they were able to turn this around and get, to the regional semis, let alone a single win in this playoffs. Like you said, every single game has been an upset for them. Just a very impressive postseason run so far, and I'll be interested to see if they can continue it after their match tonight. But otherwise, we saw in Region 5, Mount Vernon. Few upsets there. Every game they won was an upset as well. They came in and swept Hartley in the first round. Then the more notable one I feel like was a win over DeSales, St. Francis DeSales 3-1. They would fall to Carroll in the next round, but Mount Vernon did not really have the season that a lot of us expected after last year's great run. And, some of it is because they play, honestly, one of the hardest schedules um, for any team in the state, let alone for a D2 team. They're packed full of D1 opponents like Iggy and Worthington. But they came in and they did not even have double-digit wins coming into the playoffs, and they still were able to get it done and get to the regional semis.
Yeah, but Mount Vernon is pretty similar to LaSalle, like in Region 8 in Cincinnati. Just that they're a D2 team who plays a lot of D1 juggernauts. And I think even though it doesn't look good on paper, like you said, less than 10 wins coming into the tournament, like even though their record says they have a lot of losses, they do have a lot of experience playing against these top teams. And I think the tournament is really when it pays off because uh, they are a 9 seed on paper, but they're playing more like a higher seed, maybe like a 3 or 4 seed, like beating Bishop Hartley, who's a 7 seed, and then beating St. Francis de Sales, who's a 3 seed. And de Sales has been on our rankings a couple times this year, and now uh, they did end up losing to Carroll, but still, I mean, they made it. I mean, that's a great postseason for them, and they made it a lot further than a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, definitely was a good one for them. Like you said, LaSalle, another team that every game they played was an upset, and they would make it to the regional semis again before falling to Fenwick. But they had a great win over Baden and then a really close win over Alter. And, Alter also had that upset against Edgewood in the first round, but that was just a really, really close matchup between those two. It was a good watch. The greatest separation they had at the end of this set was by 5 points. It was 24-26, 25-20, 25-23, 23-25, and then 15-13 for LaSalle to win in five. But, LaSalle, like you said, just plays a tough, tough schedule every single year because of those 6 GCL games that are built in. And then they make the choice to schedule a lot of other hard games as well. And that really aids them in the playoffs here, despite their low seed.
Yeah, LaSalle always gets put in a tough spot every year, like we said, because of those six GCL games that they play every year against those D1, very good D1 opponents. And just a bunch of the other games on their schedule are just very tough. So, like when the tournament comes around and we say, oh, LaSalle's a 7 seed, oh, they're not that good. They're like not, they're whatever. But then they come in and they beat 4 seed Baden, they beat 6 seed Alter, and then they do lose to 2 seed Fenwick, but still just the ability to make it that far as a 7 seed just like really puts them under the radar every year.
Yeah, and Fenwick is just such a tough team. It was going to be hard for anyone that had to play them. But on Region 6, I think this was the last one that kind of stuck out to me just because, I feel like we did kind of see this one coming. St. Vincent St. Mary easily making their way to the regional final against Springfield, and that'll be happening on the 23rd. But they have not dropped a set yet, even against two-seeded Firestone. And they're another team that's kind of like LaSalle and Mount Vernon, where they play a lot harder competition, and that kind of uh, brings down their seeding. If you looked at Springfield and SVSM's schedule, you would say that SVSM is probably the favorite going into this, despite the seeding, and I have to agree with that. They're at the benefit of playing tough opponents, and they know how to get wins. And that'll be a good one. I don't think St. Vincent St. Mary's going to have any problem with that. But looking ahead to some matchups tonight and to finish out the week, I think the biggest D2 one tonight is obviously Loveland and McNick. That'll be a really good matchup.
Yeah, I think this is a very highly anticipated matchup. Loveland been dominant all year, and McNick, they got off to kind of a slow start, but then they've been picking it up ever since, and they've gotten better and better and better. And as the two-time defending state champion, they're never a team you need to shy away from. So even though Loveland has been so dominant all season, this is still a very, very big game to look out for. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if this game went to 5 sets.
Yeah, I would not be either. Loveland with that late season drop, they had two losses in the regular season. One was to Milford at the end, um, and that really shows that they are beatable. It's still going to be incredibly hard to beat them, but I don't know if McNick is going to be able to get it done. They are a really, really good team, but Loveland is just on another level, it seems, when playing D2 opponents. They've got three losses, excuse me, this season, and every single one of them is to a D1 team, and not just any D1 team. It was Elder, Milford, and Lakota East who all won their first round matchup. So good D1 teams that they've lost to. They've beat very good D2 teams. I mean, that win over McNick earlier, and they've got a win over Fenwick as well. It'll be a good game for sure, but I do think Loveland's going to come out on top, and then we get to see a Loveland Fenwick matchup, which is going to be a very fun one. Um, in terms of other games tonight, when you look at D1, everyone is playing tonight except for Hudson, who's already found their way into the regional final. Nick, what games are you most excited for in D1?
I mean, coming from the GCL South, I mean, I feel like I have to say Elder versus Moeller.
Yeah.
I mean, that the 1 seed versus 3 seed, big rivalry over there. It's being played at Moeller today. So I think the crowd's going to be bumping for both teams because Elder fans travel well. And both teams have been very good all season, very evenly matched between these two teams. Uh, Personally, I think Elder might pull it out. Like I just think they're a little more battle tested. I think I wouldn't be surprised at the upset, but also Moeller has that home crowd. They have the 1 seed. They have a bunch of great seniors. They have a almost their entire team is made up of seniors, and they just have great leadership on that team, great chemistry. So I also wouldn't be surprised if Moeller wins either. But overall, I think the regional final is going to be Elder versus St. X, who plays Lakota East also tonight. That one is at uh, St. X. So I think we're going to see another St. X versus Elder regional final like we did last year.
So yeah, I do agree that St. X will be beating Lakota East. They already did earlier at the end of the season there. I don't think that'll be the toughest matchup for them, despite how good Lakota East has been this year. But I do think Moeller is going to get it done over Elder. Um, Moeller's done it twice already. They've got one loss to Elder, but it's at the Centerville Elite Eight tournament. They're not going to be winded having played games already. I could see it going either way for this one, but I do think that Moeller is just on a roll right now. Other than that loss to St. X at the end of the season, they just have kind of looked like they're on a different level. They haven't dropped a set this postseason. Um, they are faltering a little bit. That rough game against Alter where they dropped one set, which was a little surprising, and then it went to five against McNick and the loss to St. X. But I don't know. I think that they just do have it in them to beat Elder one more time. When they're both playing at full power, Elder really hasn't been able to to get it done against them, and I think that that's going to keep up here. So I think it's going to be Moeller St. X 1-2 in the final, and that'll be a good watch. But in terms of other games, well, I think that both of the Region 3 games that we talked about earlier, Worthington, Beaver Creek, and Dublin Jerome, going to be good, but I think that's going to be another 1-2 matchup.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Centerville and Beaver Creek have made it a lot further in this tournament than a lot of people expected, and I do give credit to them. Like that takes a lot of good volleyball to be played. You have to stay ready for all these games, but I think Worthington and Jerome are just too good. Like I think they're just going to overwhelm them a little too much, and I do think it's going to be Worthington and Jerome in the regional final also.
Yeah, and I think that is it's hard to bet against them. Like you said, they've been playing on a different level. In Region 2, we already have said it a few times, but we'll say it one more time. It's probably going to be Ignatius Hudson, another 1-2 matchup. We're going, at least I say that it's going to be all 1-2s. You say you have a 3-2 in Region 4, but we said it. Iggy is just on a different level. Hudson's already in the final, and that one is going to probably be a solid game in the final. Maybe not a super close one, but it'll be good volleyball from both sides. Region 1, I think it's a little more up in the air than the other three.
Yeah, I mean the Region One, we're looking at uh, the battle of the Olentangy teams, Olentangy Berlin versus Olentangy Liberty, and then we've got Gahana Lincoln versus New Albany. I think this is also going to be another 1-2 uh, regional final. I think Berlin has just been the better team, and like New Albany. I think that this game could be. I mean, this is the 2 and 3 seed game, so I think this game could be very close. But I think New Albany is just a little bit better, and I think they're gonna pull it out.
I think that's fair. I think Gahanna Lincoln New Albany will be a pretty good matchup. I think Berlin Liberty is probably going Berlin's way. They've been on a different level compared to the other teams in their bracket this season. I think that they're going to keep that up. They haven't, well, they did play Olentangy Liberty in an early season matchup, and that only was a best of three kind of situation, but they took the win there, and I think that that's going to repeat here. New Albany, Gahanna Lincoln. I think that Gahanna Lincoln will actually take this one. They took their last matchup 3-2 after getting swept in the first one. And I think that they've just been playing really good recently. They've only got one loss to Hilliard Darby in the last few games. And I think that they're going to come out on top, and we're going to see another 1-3 matchup. But I think that no matter what, these are going to be a lot of good games tonight, especially that Moeller Elder one. I think is the big one circled on a lot of people's schedule.
Yeah, I think that's definitely circled on my schedule. I think
Yeah.
I'm very very excited for that game. Just any GCL game in my opinion is just very good, and I think these two teams this year are very evenly matched. And I think this could go either way. And obviously with Saint X in the picture also, I obviously want Saint X to beat whoever wins that game. But I mean, all three of these teams now are very even. I wouldn't have said that about a month ago, but Saint X has really turned it on. They've beat both Elder and Moeller in the last couple weeks, and I think they can really hang there with those guys now.
Yeah, I think that I mean, as good as these semifinal games are, these regional final games are going to be so good to watch in every region of both divisions. I mean, the the regional final game I might most be excited for is it could be in D2 and Region 8. I mean, the winner of McNick Loveland versus Fenwick. I think that that's just going to be a really good game, and the winner of that is probably the favorite to win state. They'll have to face St. Charles or Archbishop Carroll, but that Region 8 is just so good, and I'm excited to see that matchup tonight as well. And then that final later. This is the part of the season where it's really just the best teams are left. Teams that, after tonight, it's going to be everyone has a realistic shot of competing for that state title. Most teams do. And I think it'll be a good watch from here on out. I'm going to be tuned into as many games as possible, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of good games on, like you said. I think that Region 8, the teams left in Region 8, I think like you said, they are going to be the favorite. But I think St. Charles is a team really to look out for. They've been on a tear all season, and I think they could give any team trouble. I do think Loveland is going to beat McNick, and again, that'll be a really good game against Loveland and Fenwick. But yeah, I think it's either going to be the winner of Loveland McNick or Fenwick or St. Charles. I think is going to win it all for D2.
Yeah, it's still up in the air for D2. We've talked about it with every D2 coach about how really wide open it feels this year too. You can't count anyone out. And I think that right now that kind of seems like the case for D1 too. I think if I had to pick a favorite right now, I think Iggy would probably be mine. This back half of the season and in the playoffs, they've been playing like the team they were at the start of the season before they dropped a few, and like the team they were last playoffs. But I mean, they are looking like they're going to be ready when they get to that Final Four, when they get to the regional final, assuming they win tonight. I think that they're my favorite right now to win it all.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they're my favorite too. Like you said, like they've played very consistently, very well all year. Like some of these other teams, we've seen like a bit of a rough spell from some of them. Like uh, like the GCL teams, we've seen like a little bit of a rough spell from them, but we've also seen some very bright moments from them. Iggy's really just been consistent all year, been dominant all year, and they returned a lot of their guys from their state championship team last year. So I think that's really going to help them out, and I think that they're also my favorite.
Yeah, and I think that that's all we had for today. Like we've said an incredible amount of times already. A lot of good games tonight. I can't wait to watch them all. I can't wait to see how they all turn out too. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back next week.